Hi, everybody. We're back again with another episode of Red, White, and Brown by Live. And this Saturday at noon, what are you doing? Because we are having fun reviewing some really epic shows and movies for you. So today we got a list, and I have with me Manushi. Michael is MIA. He's actually going to play a game tonight. So I'm gonna list what we're gonna talk about today. We will start with Taj Divided by Blood. Taj Divided by Blood is a magnum opus, is a story of Emperor Akbar and the Mughals that had invaded India. And just actually, what I really liked about the story, we'll tell you in a bit. But yes, the story is streaming on, the series is streaming on Z5 Global. Get your app. We will also review Gulmohar, which is a movie that streams on Hulu for you and Hotstar for the rest of the world. And we will review the Tamil version of The Great Indian Kitchen, which with Aishwarya Rajesh just released on Z5 this week as well. So you got two movies and a series, and we're gonna get started right away with Taj Divided by Blood. Manushi, what did you think about it?
Hey, so I think Taj is a bit of mix of, the old Akbar emperor thing plus the Mughal-E-Azam. I think it's more of a modern version of Mughal-E-Azam. I think the more, the 2023 version of Mughal-E-Azam in a very reverbed way, I would say.
Absolutely. And if you read our reviews on Live, guys, go read our reviews there and you'll get to watch this in a bit as well. You will know that that's exactly what a review is. This series actually has a stellar cast. It has Dharmendra, it has Nasiruddin Shah, who plays the aging emperor Akbar, and gosh, I think that it's a casting coup to have Nasiruddin Shah really play the insecurities of the great Mughal emperor, and then of course the beautiful Aditi Rao Haidari, who plays Anarkali, and with people like Taha Shabat Shah and Ashim Gulati playing the princess, and Joda being played by none other than the beautiful Sandhya Mridul, who is a stellar actor in her own right. But actually, this is it's a freewheeling historical fiction that meets the twisted family drama, and the series is produced by Quantado Pictures, which is a Mumbai-based production house. The canvas of the this India UK co-production, which is by the way directed by Ron Scalpello, and all the writers are actually not so many Indians as they're British. It's actually the narrative that covers several decades of Emperor Akbar's nearly 50-year reign over India, and you know how well he did and what all happened in his life. But yes, it does aspire to be epic, but it really falls short. And I'll tell you why. We will just in a minute tell you why it falls short. And this is actually a 10-episode show. It's about war, it's about bloodshed, it's about the intrigues that take place in a palace, the conspiracies that are hatched in the shadows, the internecine feuds and forbidden love that turns father against son and son against father, and the plot is just amazing. I mean, if this is the life these guys led, I swear to God, they deserve every series, every movie, every book in the world to be dedicated to them because, hey, this is a lot of stuff that happened in a lifetime and amazing dramatic potential. And the writers have, to be fair to them, in the first 5 episodes, I thought they were doing a really good job. Come the sixth episode, I think they lost track of what was happening here to a great extent. The overall impact of the series is definitely undermined by long dialogues, long dialogues. Sometimes, like you really have to fast forward. Thank God you have remote control because you're watching it in Z5. Literally, sometimes you have fast forward stuff because sometimes that monologues and those very heavy worded dialogues just take it out of your life. It's crazy. But what's interesting about the series is that it portrays Emperor Akbar as a human being. It doesn't revere him, it doesn't demonize him. He's just as human as you and I. And I think it's very important in the times that we are where we are, especially where India is right now, where there are attempts of writing off history. The entire Mughal rule is looked down by nationalistic forces as something that should have never happened. But the Mughals did contribute a lot to India's history, and very honestly, everybody who ruled India came from somewhere in that generation or before that generation. So just singling out a clan because of their religion just seems a little bit too preposterous. Everybody that lived in the Indian subcontinent came from somewhere, right? They traveled continents to be there. So, the screenplay is by William Brothwick and Simon Fatauzo. And this entire tussle between the emperor and his three sons, and how the sons are so vividly different from each other, and how the women in their life play to their characters, uh, and the Begums are played by Zarina Wahab, and there's Padma Damodaran, and there's Sandhya Mridul, as I told you earlier. And all three make the most of, just survival of the fittest for the women as well, and how that politics, how the war enters the courtesans' lives, and how the women really, in a fight for survival, become who they are. And I thought that was really interesting, a very interesting dynamic that I haven't seen before. The three women who are the wives, and who are the courtesans, really make the most of whatever is thrown at them. And these are, they're thrown lemons, they make juice out of it, and they do make the presence felt. The focus in any case is not on them as it is on this fictionalized part of it. I thought it was highly fictionalized on Aditya Rao Hydari's role of the ill-fated Anarkali. Very tragic, melancholic cage story of a woman who, since 14 years of age, had been in a prison inside one of the harems. But this is where the fictionalization comes in, because we don't. Was it ever told? I mean, even the movie Anarkali, doesn't document this. I don't know. My history of Anarkali and Salim's love story comes from all the movies that have been made, and I remember in 1990 when they recolored the old Anarkali. I was visiting for somebody's wedding to India, and my best friend took me to really watch it on the screen, because hey, all you know is you watch the black and white version on television, and for all, I don't know if it's on any of the streamers, but they recolored it and they re-released it, and it was houseful, literally houseful. So given the fate of all the female characters in this series, it just comes across that Akbar was fallible. I mean, he wasn't such a just guy as he propounded himself to be, because the women were really ill-treated. One of them was held captive against her will because his son was in love with her, and the others were forced into marriages of convenience and doomed to pine for love and silence, and they were hard-pressed. They didn't have voices. They didn't, even if they had the voice, they couldn't be heard. And in a very male-dominated universe that marked Akbar's reign of 50 years, a Taj divided by blood, really predictably makes mute women voices happen in its series. But what I had to really give it to the series is, of course, the one and only Nasiruddin Shah, who plays Akbar, Emperor Akbar, with such amazing craft. You have to really watch the series for this man who literally, you see the frailty, you see the insecurity of Akbar in his eyes. And the way he's understood the role and the way he's delivered the craft, this guy's a genius. He is a genius. And how he took his decisions emotionally. And, on one hand, he was so benevolent. On the other hand, he was a despot, really. So that swing between barbarism and compassion in his eyes. I don't think anybody could have done what Nasiruddin Shah's done with this character of Akbar so well. I mean, this guy is crazy. Yeah, but then Akbar had his nine ratans, and he would have deep conversations with them. The Birbal kinds, and philosophies have been written about his conversations with these people. He wanted to be the guardian of justice. He wanted to be defender of secularism. He married Jodha, for God's sake, so he was secular. But then the series also shows that how his three sons have none of those traits. His three sons were as different as chalk and cheese, not only from the father, but also from each other. And they not only test his patience, his acumen, but also they sidestep him, and they literally make his life hell to a great degree. So then, of course, this entire Prince Salim, who's played by Ashim Gulati, and Aditya Rao Hedri's love. He's addicted to wine and women, and his concubines keep him away. He's just very busy, and he has no interest in the kingdom. And he isn't the only son that the emperor struggles to tame. Here, actually, the series grapples with, the other two sons as well, and their, like Aurangzeb's brutality, and how he thought, and what really created his character. So a lot of deep rooted things come out. I think it's really good writing at one hand, but at the same time, I thought the plot became a little too repetitive after the sixth episode. Yep. So yes, the series is worth watching. He's his the entire. You start looking at Akbar in a very different light, and I thought that was well documented. But then it's slightly fictionalized as well. It's really not
I
plain and
really have
simple
to
history.
the costume department for pulling out such stunning attires for all the characters in the movie. You actually feel like you've transformed yourself back to that era, and you're actually back to that era, and you're seeing all these people live their characters and everything. I think it was a surreal thing to pull off.
No, you're absolutely right. But also, after the sixth episode, it stopped being the story of Akbar. It was more anarchically light. It was like anarchically 2023. Also, the other thing that
Yeah.
I noticed was the mannerism wasn't 1400s. It was really 2023 mannerism. The way they
Yeah.
acted, and although, there are ways to move around it. They could have really trained these actors to be more 1400, but they didn't make any attempt to make them 1400 at all. Sometimes you're like, this is something 1400s wouldn't have done. This is something that 2020s have done. So some of the
Yeah.
things become so unbelievable after a bit, and repeatable. But then it turned out to be, in the end, it's like a anarchically 2023 anarchically light series. I mean, literally, with all the costumes and beautiful women, and of course Aditi Rao Hedri. It's fabulous. She's beautiful. She's stunning, and she's probably the perfect anarchally that they could have cast. But hats off to Nasiruddin Shah. I think I was highly impressed by the way. I mean, his craft is known, but it takes an actor of that level to pull Akbar off, and he did that.